I'm going to start on this butterfly one now, which is quite a difficult piece really, not just because of drawing. I don't want to copy it exactly out and make a larger photograph, but for the very reason that that would be the temptation to do. I want to still abstract from it, and we do need to have a repeating pattern each side, but I don't think it's going to be possible, or I don't think it's advisable to get it exact in this case, otherwise it's going to become a piece of graphics. So what I'm going to do is build up a bit of the tissue again, just to get the feeling of these butterfly veins, keeping it fairly flat, and then white emulsion over the top, and then use acrylic inks and acrylics and oils up at the end to build up this feeling of these butterfly wings, and the colours most of all, the atmosphere. So what I shall do first is just work out quarters and halfways and so on, and approximate these shapes in, as long as they're fairly equal. It would look a bit daft if they weren't fairly equal. That's my centre line there, so I want to be around there. Just making the main compositional marks, because that's where I want to be playing with my tissue most. And I should paint all over it completely again with some white emulsion, because I want the inks to glow through, obviously. Each side of the centre line. Just roughly trying to sculpt these main butterfly forms in. It's taken some time to get this composition as we want it on the computer. Now I just need to work it a bit more on here. So as long as we do one thing one side and the same the other side, it's always the best way to work with something symmetrical or like a butterfly, is to, whatever you do here, you must do there at the same time. If you try and go back later, you'll be totally lost. So if I make that mark there, I've got to go back and make the same mark here, or I will not get it right. So I figure that gives me about the basic composition I require to find my way around. Just need to look at the veins in the wings a little more here, just to get that, because I'm going to need those in, I think, with the tissue paper. Right, that should about do me. I'm going to simply tear the tissue paper into strips at first, and I can use larger pieces later, but I think this size piece will be adequate. And all I have to do is dip the paper fully into it. Now where I want just a line of a wing, and I can bring that round that, and hopefully I'll stick down. I have to use a brush in a minute just to get things sorted, but should be alright. Same. I'm going to do the same as with the drawing. When I do one side, I shall do the other side the same. It's a little bit preconceived, but no more so than planning a watercolour really, and it's to get the effects that I require. To try and remember to do things in mirror, not always as easy as it may seem. Okay, there's our basic design. Now, it's a matter of laying tissue across it, I think. And to do that, it's going to be our best way to tear up larger pieces probably. And hope that they'll just crinkle nicely onto it. So we can get the feeling of the butterfly wing by laying this tissue one across another. It's all experimental, it's all good fun, it's all learning process, but keeps the mind active. You see, we get this nice crinkly effect this way as well. Whenever I mark here, I want to try and get that mark going the same in the other direction as well. We want to try and get it to stick down in between these pieces we've already laid up. Otherwise there's no point in having them. Got a little bit of work to do at the end, but not an awful lot. All I've got to do now is pat it down, make sure I'm showing these raised surfaces that we made before. Let it dry, and then we'll put a bit of white emulsion over it, lighten the whole thing up a bit, give us a ground to paint on. There we are then. Now this one also needs a coat of white emulsion. Put a bit on. We'll coat the yellow first because I've already got white on the other, so it doesn't matter so much, does it? Get on nice and thick to help fill and smooth out the joints into the yellow tissue. White emulsion is also dry on this picture, so we can start to look at the acrylic inks for laying on these beautiful colours, the butterfly wings on here. And as with any watercolour or transparent medium, we really need to work from our lights to our darks. So here we have the FW acrylic inks, very effective, bright, strong colours. Some of them semi-transparent, some of them slightly more opaque. Going to start with lemon yellow and processed yellow, and just drop those in straight onto the white. We'll see what effects we get. Use a brush, work out where everything's going. That's the blue there, that's got to be the yellow here then. So how bright they are. I'm going to put my darks over the top, so these light colours, I haven't got to worry too much about all the details, just the main patterns, that's all. Make sure I get those in. Whatever I do one side has to go the other side, of course, remember. And I want these colours to be glowing through underneath. This is the idea of these, putting these bright colours on. We have a lovely bright, almost stained glass effect, translucency of these beautiful light colours before I start using any more opaque acrylics or oils over the top. Come back down to my process yellow now. Now we're going to move on to the oils and put oils over this acrylic ink. This should give us a lovely vibrance because the oils will be nice and although opaque, very bright. You can let the luminosity of the acrylic inks shine through underneath. I've got a full range of brushes here today, from the rounds to the filberts and even a rigger there if we need it. We're going to need a rigger possibly at the end for the very dark veins. But I'm going to start off with a 1/4 inch filbert, and I want to use the paint fairly thickly for this, fairly opaquely, to build up these strong colours. I'll start up here on the little red admiral. I'm going to make black at the moment using Prussian blue and a little brown. I'd like a more vibrant black. So let's look at that butterfly first. Just here, the red admiral. Actually that dark is fairly good as it is, so that's not too bad. So I don't want to copy things exactly, I do want to use this as a fairly abstract pattern. But I do want the vibrance of the colours. This is what this is very much about, is this vibrance of colour. So if I can use these pure oil colours on top now, bring that out, that's going to be quite effective, isn't it? There's a little white to go in. It doesn't take much of a colour often to change the colour next to it, so if I put white in, it's going to make the other colours around it look much brighter as well. So I have a little white to go in just up here. Whatever you put one side, put the same mark immediately on the other, so you don't get lost. Go back here and just touch it up. And while I've got white on my brush, then obviously I want to be looking as to where it might go elsewhere. So over here on the peacock butterfly, now I'll put that in at the end because we're looking at these bits of wing, and what's happening there is we've got an undercoat of a very nice mauve going on there, which I want to get in first. It's been a bit lost. So we've got this rather nice, very light blue mauve coming in here that I'm going to bring in. You can use your finger to blend as well, but we're working over a surface here. There's a lovely mauve colour I can put in here, all the way across, and just blend it with my finger if I need to. At the moment I'm just sort of scumbling it across the surface of the canvas there. May even be needing a little bit of blue into there because it's not just one colour, it's hardly ever just one colour. It's usually one colour next to another that's helping to make an effect. So I need some what looks like cobalt blue going on there next to it. Let's see if that's bright enough. A little bit of white. Very subtle colours, we want to get them just right now. So a little bit of light blue there, of the cobalt blue, just going on around the edge of that edge there. You see the lovely sort of lustre it gives. This is what we're doing now, is bringing up these, and we've got a sort of cross between yellow ochre and chrome yellow going on. So I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow ochre and chrome yellow. The colours are not far off on this side actually. Then we go back to our white, and that white has to go in one spot there, same over here, down below there, and the same over here. We need to start looking at other areas where the white might be. I'm going to put a little bit more terps with it now, just so that it blends a bit better. Got to be careful we don't lose the luminosity of the colour underneath, but there's a slight pasty white just coming across there. Put a bit more orange into this, just to liven it up. It's quite dry now, so we can paint this paint over as thickly as we like. Now, yellows tend to be a fraction transparent, I've noticed, in both the oils and the acrylics. So you may have to add just a little touch of white to get a bit more opaqueness in places. So again, it's one of these things where I've started loose and I'm gradually tightening up afterwards. If we start loose, we can tighten up later. We can't start tight and then go looser. Very, very difficult to do that. Not wise. Let's look at the blues here. I'm going to go back to my filbert now. And we're looking at cerulean here with some white. Let's see if we can brighten that any more than it already is, because it's already pretty good with the inks. Colour here and there. Let's just see if this helps. Yes, that actually is a lot warmer than I expected. Warmer blue, just play against the cooler blue underneath to give this iridescence that we're after. Just tickling the surface to let the colour glow one through another underneath. I keep saying that, but it's important you don't push too hard. Hopefully you're starting to see what comes after. A really blue tint that's happening down into the butterfly wings here. I think we need to start looking at greener just there. Really got a subtlety of colours all the time with this, because one colour plays against. Looking at the peacock here, slightly redder. And talking of greens, those greens are coming down into here as well. It is a painting we're doing, so we are playing with these colours. We're not reproducing it. The last thing I want to do. So orangey, mustard yellow, let's see if we can find that. Comes down from this wing here to there. That's the colour. And the same the other side, so it'll be here. Lovely. Because I can paint more thickly now, I can start to put in some deeper blues, places like this, to glow on again. And make the cooler blue seem cooler because of the warmer blue next to it. Let's try and get this shimmering effect, it's not easy. So I think we're almost ready to move into our blacks next. Right, I think now we can come back in and actually start to get some of the black and put some black around to make these colours stronger still. Prussian blue and a warmer, very useful for making your blacks in an impressionist painting anyway, certainly. And you can see the black should start to really pull things together a bit in patterns. Black is something I don't normally use at all because I'm an impressionist, so I usually make my blacks with the very deep blues and browns. But when you're doing a decorative piece like this, things are a little bit different. You start to stylise the picture a bit more as well. I should use a larger brush in places. And if I think it needs to be a bit darker, then that's what we'll do. Let's see what we can do with the rigger. To look at some of these finer lines in here. Maybe we can just paint a few in. Being a very uneven surface, it's not easy. I think, you know, we're almost there unless we want to just keep going into more and more and more detail. But I think, you know, we've come to about a dead end on that. It's worked up enough that it's still paint, looks like paint. Maybe just a little bit of light blue in places here and there, very pale, but not a lot. Just to soften things down a bit and link them, maybe, not a lot.